Okay, I said yesterday there's a bit of a challenge coming to cars, and I think it's obviously coming to cars in the City of Melbourne. This is something we talked about before with the Lord Mayor, Councillor Sally Capp, and it's the transport plan, I suppose, for the draft transport strategy for the future of Melbourne. There's some quite dramatic stuff in there. We've outlined some of it. We're a little pushed for time. We'll go straight to it. In the studio with me is the Lord Mayor, Councillor Sally Capp. Good morning.
Good morning, Neil.
And the Chair of the City of Melbourne's Transport Portfolio, who's really responsible for the work that's gone into this, Councillor Nicolas Francis Gilley. Good morning.
Good morning, Neil.
Now, Councillor Capp, you want to bring back O-bikes?
Really?
Do you?
Well, we're going to be investigating all sorts of different transport around the city, Neil. There are trials suggested for scooters coming up, which we've talked about before. And really, we're just looking for ways in which we can ease congestion, make it easy for people to move around our city, and also create spaces where people can enjoy the city.
But is that what it means? It says develop a regulatory framework for new mobility services like the dockless things. So that's
well,
O-bikes or
I'm going to hand over to Nicolas Francis Gilley.
Well, I think the interesting thing is that we don't have any regulation because, technology is moving so quick, new modes of transport.
Well, they're a disaster, the O-bikes.
Yeah, the O-bikes were a disaster and there was no regulation. So what we tried to do is to work with the state to say we can, which we did in the end, work as separate councils, but, there are a lot of councils and we've got no regulation, we've got no authority. So we're saying to the state government, we would like some authority. So if people come here, they do it badly, they block the streets or they're dangerous, we can do something about it because we had no ability to do anything about it.
But are we saying it's a way of the future to have such O-bikes or scooters or whatever in dockless facilities?
I think the point is they were there and we had no control. So this is about saying we need some control to be able to make sure that they're safe, that we've got some controls and that we can manage it.
Does it mean we want them?
Well, I think that's interesting because the technologies are going to change. So, for example, at the moment, they are seeing for last mile, scooters are particularly useful, electric scooters are particularly useful for getting people that last mile of the journey, and particularly where there's not public transport, so not in the inner city. So I think it's just about looking at different ways, different things that are coming to us, thinking about them, but making sure that we've got regulation to manage them and keep them safe.
Councillor Capp, you want Melbourne to be Australia's premier bicycle city. At what expense to cars?
Well, we're really in this draft transport strategy, Neil, which we're considering next Tuesday, we're really calling a war on congestion. And we're looking at how congestion is impacting our city. We're also looking at safety. And we know that we want to have a very livable city and a very productive city. And congestion and safety are two big issues that impact the livability and productivity.
Do you want cars out of it? Do you want fewer cars in the city?
Well, the draft transport strategy is full of evidence, and one of the really startling bits of evidence in there is that 43% of the traffic that is in the city at any one time is through traffic. So if we could actually deter or divert that through traffic that's not coming into the city to do business or to enjoy our city, then that would actually ease congestion on our roads.
So what are we talking about? King Street, that sort of thing?
No, I don't think we're talking about King Street. I think King Street is a major arterial route. I don't think you can touch that. You need to keep those in place.
But what roads are we talking about?
I think we're talking about looking at every road in the city and saying, what does this road do? And so, for example, there are roads that have lots of bike tracks coming into the city and they get to the city and then they can't go anywhere. So, in those instances, you'd look at that point and you'd say, is there something that you can ease the congestion there? And I think the thing about bicycles is if we know that in the northern suburbs, for example, we got 10% people coming in, 30% would if they had separate bike paths. Every 7 people you take out of a car
in the northern suburb, they're all hipsters.
But if every 7 people, if we want to get congestion out, every 7 people that are on a bike, that's 7 car spaces for only 1 car space. So to get congestion down, get people on a bike.
But what about non-hipster suburbs?
Well, same down in Brighton. They're all coming in on bikes too.
They're just upmarket hipsters.
But Neil, I think the point you're making is a good one. We've got major thoroughfares where cars need to be able to operate efficiently and to be able to move efficiently, and we're nominating different streets that can be for bicycle thoroughfares. And an example of that is Exhibition Street, where people at the moment come in from the eastern suburbs along the Capital Trail and they get to Flinders Street and all of a sudden they're faced with a very bicycle-unfriendly street. So by allocating some space there, they can keep moving north-south through the city.
Nick, what about Latrobe Street? Because that seems to, I certainly use that a lot to get across town.
So should we have bikes there?
Well, is
And
that a
we
major
do.
thoroughfare?
Well, it is a major thoroughfare,
have
and we've
bikes
got
there
a
jamming it up.
bike lane.
It jams it up.
Well, actually, they're not jamming it up. I think the point is what they
They
are
are
doing.
whenever I drive through.
Well, but the point is, I think the thing is that if we can get more people out of a car and onto a bike, every 7...
I can't ride a bike.
I know, exactly.
Yeah.
So then you're going to have more space, but I can. So we came
Well,
in
how
on
are we
a...
gonna force you to do it?
We came in on... No, I'm not nobody's forcing anybody. Well, the thing is, we've gone
You
to...
are, because
no,
you're jamming the road so much. I haven't got an option.
But
I've got to
Neil,
ride
for
a bike.
every
taking-
person that goes on a bike, it's one
Less
less car
car.
in front of you. So
Yes,
you
I
should
know,
be
but
thanking all of
therefore
those
you're trying
people.
you're punishing the car drivers and trying to force them onto bikes.
We're actually giving space for them. We're getting
Well, only
space
if
for
the other
tradies
peop-
to come
Yep.
in. We're getting space for people to come
Not
in.
parking space. You're going to use up their parking spots.
Wait, do you know? I don't know. I mean, maybe you don't know, but in terms of private parking space in this city, currently under every single one of these buildings, that 40% of the car spaces are empty every single day. There is lots of opportunity.
This is in the private buildings,
It's
as
in private
distinct from
buildings.
car parks.
As distinct from
Yeah,
car parks.
yeah.
But the point is, there is lots of space for innovation. And one of the things this transport strategy talks about is over the next 10 years, let's have that innovation. Let's think about how we be creative. And if we can get plenty of parking because it's there and it's not being used, and we can have a wider footpath so people feel safe, and that we can have a coffee and sit under a tree and love the city we love, nobody's lost.
There's 40% of private car parks are empty.
Yes.
Geez, not in any building I've ever worked in. There's usually World War III over one.
That was our census. That's the census
going out
data.
of count downstairs.
You're particularly talking about commercial buildings, though,
Yeah.
but there are a lot of residential buildings with car parks, and an enormous number of those car parks are empty.
Who owns them? Who owns the car park?
Sometimes they're individually owned. Sometimes they're owned by the body corporate. I think the point is, I think all of this is, everything is changing rapidly. Like you started with scooters, but we could talk about driverless cars.
Well, actually,
we could talk about
scooters. Somebody tells me in Brisbane they're running over 2 people a day.
Well, we both came on a bike, and both of us nearly got run over this morning. So I mean, we've
Bloody
got to
cars.
create. Love cars. Just want them to be able to run smoothly through the city. So we're going to get people on bikes so that they can.
It is about a war on congestion, and it is about safety, Neil.
Okay, little streets, Little Burke, Little Collins. What are you going to do to them?
Well, we are renowned around the world for our laneway culture here in Melbourne. And in those laneways, people are able to wander and they're able to stop and they're able to enjoy themselves. And we want to extend that sort of culture into our little streets. And there are a number of suggestions in the paper on how we can actually better accommodate pedestrians and cars in those little streets to share those spaces and really increase the enjoyment of those streets.
And one of the idea actually, as happens a little bit already, is to ban cars in certain hours in those streets. Is that correct?
Yeah. So Little Collins, we close it down at lunchtime just because there's all that people coming out the little laneways, crossing the streets to make it safe. But there are other streets like that. I know you love the city, and at night we've got some of those precincts where we have got literally people spilling out of restaurants, and they're all over the street and they're having a party, and we've still got cars going down, and we don't need it that time of night. So could we give them space to really enjoy that part of the city at that time?
How many car parking on street car parking spots do we need to get rid of?
Well, I think this is a 10-year plan. We need to do some things. So right now, for example, we've just taken a couple of spots to create parking for motorbikes. So the good thing about that is you can get, I think, 7 or 8 motorbikes in a car park spot, and that means that's 8 off the pavement. So where we've got crushed pavements,
You don't want
we're
to
doing
encourage people to ride motorbikes, do you?
Well, actually, I think if you take...
Kept falling off them.
Yes, but if it's about... We want it less congested for people in cars. So if we can get them on their motorbike because they're coming from 30 Ks, and then we can give them a spot, and that's not one. It's not 7 bays now taken up for 7 cars. It's 1 bay taken up for 7 motorbikes, and those motorbikes aren't on the pavement. That was a great use of space and a great way to.
But am I unusual? Apart from working, I avoid the city because of parking. I don't want to go and pay $80 for an hour in a high-rise car park. Saturday morning, if I can't park in the office here, if it's too far uptown, if I can't park in the office where I'm lucky to have a spot, I'm not going to shop in Melbourne. It's too hard.
So, Neil, I think what the data is showing us is that you are becoming a rarer case, because the majority of people are coming into the city every day by public transport, and really
They're
that's
working here, aren't
train.
they?
But it's the same on the weekends. So there are 940,000 people that come into the city every weekday, and the majority of those are using public transport. And what we're talking about as we look forward is how do we balance those transport modes around the city
So I want
sure.
to do my Christmas shopping. I've got to get on a train, come in, walk uptown, arms full of presents, get on the train and go home again.
Well, you could drive to Victoria Market, do all your Christmas shopping there, and there's parking right near it.
I thought you'd cut the parking back there as well.
Actually
No, not
created
at all.
more spaces at the
Yeah.
moment. The Lord Mayor's doing a good job
We'd
on
like
that.
to.
That's right.
Hello,
Thinking about it.
hello, John. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just wondering what happens when it rains in Melbourne. Do we all just shut down the city and drive our cars? What would happen? Wouldn't it be bedlam?
Doesn't rain in Melbourne, John.
Yeah, well, perfect.
Okay, yeah. Weather transport. We're about to head into winter. Do I ride my bike all through winter?
Well, a lot of people do ride their bicycles in winter, but there's public transport is the main form of transport into the
You two came
city.
down on your bikes. Would you have ridden your bike if it was pouring rain?
No, I'd take the tram.
I would have taken the tram too. But also, both of us have a car.
Yep.
And actually, both of us have a motorbike and both of us have a bicycle, as it happens. So it's about using the right bit of transport for the right job. So my daughter and I, I've got a 17-year-old daughter, we come into town and we go and do some shopping. Actually, it was her birthday. She's just 18. I got it wrong. And we came clothes shopping. So we came in on the bike. She's on the back of the bike. We went shopping. We go back. We could park right outside on the motorbike and then go home. Great. So it's just, it's about what's the best and most efficient way. And actually, walking people spend more money than driving people. Driving people tend to go to the shop.
You don't like driving people. I've got that.
No. We care about shoppers, and we care about people spending money. And all the evidence is walking people who've come on public transport spend more money because they're walking and they're taking their time than drivers that come up, park, go in, buy the thing, get back in the car and leave. So that's the evidence.
Lord Mayor, what sort of motorbike do you ride?
I've got a Honda XR250.
Really?
Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, I am. It's a real bike.
Are you a motorcycle
No,
rider?
I think they should be illegal.
Oh, so we're going to start. Here we go. Callers, please.